kids?
All kids.
Come on, now you know the truth. Sports belong to all the youth. Which youth?
All youth.
Which youth?
All youth.
Here is what we have to say. Kids deserve the right to play. Which kids?
All kids.
Which kids?
All kids.
Come on, now you know the truth. Sports belong to all the youth.
You want a white one?
All youth.
Which youth?
All youth.
No? Y'all don't want our paper? No? Okay.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for taking the paper, Toby. We're here advocating for all kids. How are you, bud?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'll be doing better if we get the policy changed back.
All right.
Time to do the right thing for all kids.
So is there someone who would like to speak? You folks are not on the agenda.
Someone wants to speak, Mr. Warner.
So I was asking the rest of the crew if there's someone who would like to speak on behalf of your group, your organization. You folks aren't on the agenda.
No.
And what we had said last time, and we're happy to have you, is that if there's an issue that you want us to discuss or deal with, you need to go to one of your local high schools and ask that principal to be put on the agenda.
Yeah, we did that a lot, actually.
And we haven't heard from
We have like email chains where Ryan responded to the local principals.
So, is there someone who'd like to speak on behalf of your organization?
Sure. I didn't prepare anything, but essentially, like, we have reached out many times since our last meeting because you had said it's not the proper venue, and we had folks in the community reach out to their principals to then reach out to Ryle about possibly putting this on the agenda or holding a public forum about the decision to change the policy. And like one individual straight up told, like, we don't plan on having public comment on this, which is fine, but like we're being told to reach out to be put on the agenda. So I guess we're kind of confused about that and like where to go from here.
So, I'm disappointed to hear that if you have a specific issue, that people weren't willing to listen to you. And so, again,
By people you mean Ryle or like what do you
people that you spoke to, if you had talked to a principal who didn't bring it
reached
to our
out,
attention,
absolutely reached out and brought it to your attention, yes.
that you have brought it to their attention.
And they have reached out to Ryle and brought it to y'all's attention. And we've also had members of the public reach out as well.
I guess,
Do you not understand the policy that we're talking about?
well, yes, but again, if somebody would like to speak to it, I think that what Dan is saying is we're happy to hear you.
Yeah, okay. So we spoke last time too. It's just like we were told that that wasn't the proper venue. And so like, is this now, are we deciding now this is the
Yes,
proper
speak.
venue? Or?
Do it. Speak.
Okay. At the March 24th meeting of the Principals Committee on Athletics, community members came together to send the message that the league should restore the old gender eligibility policy that was supportive of trans youth. Today, in the middle of Pride Month, we return to you with a message and a question. The message: we'd like you to change the policy back. We remain committed to the position that Ryle should restore its former policy, which honored the dignity, worth, and belonging of all its student athletes. When we last spoke, 500 people had signed onto our petition demanding that Ryle change back its former policy. Today, we have almost doubled that number to 975 signatures. The Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association has stood by its trans youth athletes. The Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference has stayed strong in its commitment to the participation of all youth. There's absolutely no reason that we should have less courage on this issue than our neighbors in the North and West. This Pride Month, do the right thing, change the policy back. And then our other question was just simply, when is the meeting? So at the March 24th meeting, like I said, we were told that while we were welcome to observe, the PCOA was not the proper venue for community members to be heard. When petition signers made subsequent calls to Ryle, they were told that you have no plans and no obligation to hold a public meeting. Holding a genuinely accessible meeting, one scheduled after traditional work hours, is important to honoring the public part of the Interscholastic League's quasi-public status. There are students, educators, parents, and representatives of the LGBTQ+ community who deserve a say in this matter. Furthermore, you owe the public some transparency about how the March 7th decision was made. Ryle represents more than 50 schools, more than 60 middle schools, and more than 20,000 individual athletes. The decision to remove language supporting all youth was made just by 11 people at an off-schedule special meeting of the PCOA. Deciding whether or not to withdraw support from an entire community is not a minor practical concern like changing a logo or deciding which website hosting company to use, it is a momentous decision that should involve all relevant stakeholders, including all of the RILE member principals.
So when's the public meeting?
Or what is the proper venue?
So, as I tried to explain last time, how this committee works is we represent the principals of the state of Rhode Island,
Yes.
and furthermore, the student athletes.
Okay.
And so if there's a specific issue, and what I'm hearing from you is your issue is that you want us to go back to the language that we used in the past.
Correct.
And so we follow the laws as they're put out by the state of Rhode Island and the Rhode Island Department of Education.
Yes.
And so there's
So the Rhode Island Department of Education.
the change that we made
Yeah.
did not change the intent of the law or the way that we deal with student athletes.
Well, it did because now principals decide in their own districts their own gender eligibility policies when previously you had.
No, previously the principals always deal with eligibility issues.
Like grades and whatnot. No, I understand.
No, all eligibility. All eligibility for a child to play, to be involved in athletics in the state of Rhode Island, it's the responsibility of the principal to make sure that he or she acknowledges the eligibility list and makes their students eligible to play. We don't determine eligibility.
So maybe you can clarify for us then.
Okay.
What was the policy change?
It was just a wording change.
But
It's not just a wording change.
Right.
Because
It was just a
because
wording
previously, if a trans athlete wanted to participate and their principal were transphobic, their principal were not supportive, you guys had a stated commitment in your policy saying that all youth get to participate regardless of the gender listed on their records. So you guys in the past would have had a stated commitment to that student to push back on the principal and say like, hey, this student should be allowed to play. Now you've removed any such commitment to that
No.
student. It is a policy change.
That it's not a policy change, and that commitment is still part of how we
So just go back to the old language.
Yeah, I guess we don't understand the reason for the change in language if it's the same policy.
Massachusetts maintains this language, Connecticut maintains this language.
Yeah, it's merely clarifying what the schools already have to do. That's all it is.
But the wording is very different than the policy that you.
But that's what we're saying. That's what happened.
But the question is, if it's the same, why change the wording?
No, the obligation is still the same.
Right, but what led to the policy change?
We understand. We heard you.
Yeah, no, we're just asking for clarification.
And our only statement is going to be that we support all kids,
Okay.
everyone.
But previously you explicitly supported trans kids and gender diverse kids, and now you don't. That's a change in policy.
No, we said we support all
We
kids.
support all kids. It's not a change in
That
policy.
hasn't changed.
Is that like an all lives matter type thing?
What's that?
Is that like all lives matter, not just black lives? Is that what you're doing? Because it sounds a little bit like that.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Of course you can.
So if a trans student wanted to play on a varsity sport, what would be the procedure? They sign up for the sport?
And the
A
principal
trans
says,
female
hey,
signed up
like,
to play on field hockey. So, and she's allowed to play. That's your policy. Is that correct?
So our policy is we receive eligibility lists from all schools. And so we depend on schools to report eligibility the way they would in their
So what would the
normal.
eligibility say about a student?
The eligibility is done at the school level. That's never changed. And again, those schools are required to follow all applicable law. And that's what our rule clarifies. That's simply all that happened.
Nothing was changed. The intent wasn't changed.
I guess I'm just confused about why a change happened if the intent wasn't changed. Like, I guess I'm just like still kind of stuck on that. Like, there was language pulled from the policy, right?
Commissioner Infante Green and Attorney General Noronha told all the schools, like, don't change your policies at all. Rhode Island law hasn't changed. So just hold the line and keep your policies the way they are. And you guys changed it anyway. You got that advice from the Department of Education, and you change your language anyway. And it is a policy change because before you had a stated commitment to trans youth and gender diverse youth, and now you don't have a stated commitment to them.
Is that true?
I
So
mean,
that's
if-
no longer in the wording,
Right, so if you like,
explicit?
The Department of Ed came to us for guidance on this particular issue.
whose Department of Ed? Rhode Island Department of Ed?
Rhode Island Department of Ed,
Came to you when?
prior to when we switched the,
I mean, as far as we know, they didn't even know about Switch, so.
That's what I was told.
so is there, is there an issue? Is there a student who's being denied something, or if there's a specific issue dealing with a student athlete in the state of Rhode Island, we're happy to hear that. But it's gotta be brought to us through the principals
it
in the
doesn't want-
local district. You know, they have to bring it to us and say, here's an issue that we're facing at our Block Island School.
Our principal let us know.
Why should there even be an issue brought to you? So on February 28th, 2025, Commissioner Fonte Green and Attorney General Rhode issued guidance to schools about their policies, how their policies fit into newly issued executive orders. They instructed, quote, until the legal effect of the aforementioned executive actions is settled, so Trump's executive actions against trans youth, until that is settled, Rhode Island schools should not change current practices and procedures involving the rights of LGBTQ plus students and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs. That was the directive. So why, after February 28th, do you feel, I'm confused as why you would feel the need to change things under that directive that clearly came from the Department of Ed?
The easiest way that we can say this is to clarify that that's the school's responsibility to make sure that they follow the law, period.
But not yours.
But didn't schools
Yes,
understand
no, we
that
are-
before?
So we're a membership, okay? We're a membership. The
Correct.
membership is made up of principals who are required to do eligibility. So on the advice of our legal counsel, we clarified our rules to make sure it was clear to our members, which are our principals, of what their obligations were.
This policy change was made in the dark. Our principal let us know, like, oh, I just got an email from the association that I'm a part of, from the league that I'm a part of. This is weird. Like, they never let us know that this was going to be a decision that was going to be made. This was made at a special meeting, like, not put in an agenda beforehand, where somebody like our principal could come out and say, like, hey, I don't agree with this. You should be standing by trans youth. The policy is fine the way it is. Our principal did not know about this ahead of time. A member of your board didn't know this was discussed at the last meeting.
So if your group is the Rhode Island principals, did principals come to you asking for a change because they didn't understand, didn't understand the policy?
We were contacted by schools to ask us for clarification. Absolutely.
And so I'm confused as what the clarification would be, if it was to support all students and not to discriminate
We
against the
support-
students?
Look, we've got to get on the rest of our business agenda, but we support all students, period. All of our schools do, 100%.
Well, thank you for hearing us. So has that policy's been voted on by the entire board? The change in policy has been voted, and that's in effect at this point?
Again, there hasn't been a change in policy. All we did was to reaffirm to our principals that they needed to follow state law as as it dealt with this particular issue.
So
And so we were trying to get ahead of it, excuse me, and I get it, we were trying to get ahead of it based on the new policies coming from the federal government. And so,
Which are still in court
right, and so,
and undecided.
right, so trying to get ahead of that, we were saying to our principals, you have an obligation to your students, and you are the ones that determine eligibility, not us.
So,
And so, again, when it finally gets out of the court, we may have to hear different cases, or may have to rule in a different way. But when that first came out, when those policies and those executive orders first came out, we were advised, you need to get ahead of this and re-emphasize what principals are to do.
Interesting, because the Department of Ed said almost the opposite, that schools should not do anything to change.
We're not a school.
No, I understand that, but you're suggesting to principals
No,
change your
we're
policy.
suggesting, we're telling principals that this has been the rule forever, that the principal's obligation is to determine eligibility. That's all we reaffirmed.
Would you consider then reinstating the language that you had previously that was specifically around all student athletes can participate on the league irregardless of gender identity that aligns with the gender identity?
Of course.
Okay.
But we would base it on something that comes out of the court. So when this finally gets resolved, I'm sure we're going to be faced with some issues that we need to deal with. And at that time, if we need to change our policy, we certainly will. But we didn't change our policy.
But Rhode Island's 2001 anti-discrimination law protecting people based on gender identity, that hasn't changed. That's the applicable law here. So an executive order doesn't apply to you guys. You guys don't receive federal funds.
So that's what we follow. We follow the law.
Your old policy followed the law.
And so does our new policy.
So
So it is a different policy.
It's not a policy.
where
What
can
it is
we
is-
see the wording on that? Is it, so?
Yeah, it's right
where-
online.
Right online, okay. And the previous one
Is on mine as well.
was on his own, okay.
And I think, is that not true?
I don't know.
So again,
Could someone
all we did was
forward the previous policy?
we reaffirmed the role of the principal with such a delicate issue. It's not this board's responsibility, it's the responsibility of the LEA, the principal in the town. If there's an issue, then that has to be brought to this board, and this board will make a determination. But again, we support all kids, gender or not. We support all kids playing for the Rhode Island Scholastic League.
But you can't ignore the historical context here. Removing support, explicit support for trans kids and gender diverse kids in this historical moment means something. It's not a neutral act.
We're not removing support.
Getting through
All we did was reaffirm the roles and responsibilities of the principal of the building, the local education authority. And that's where we get our marching orders from the principal. This is the Principals Committee on Athletics. So we listen to the principals and we create, amend our rules and regulations to deal with that. And again, we support all kids. And all we did with this word change was reaffirm what we've been doing for the past 50 years.
I mean, you and I know that, like, that's a
Okay,
little bit.
listen, we really have to get on the rest of the meeting. We heard you, we understand, appreciate you coming in.
So if I could ask one thing, and you have my email, or if not, I'll forward it to you. Could you send me the previous wording of the policy that wasn't changed, as well as, and I'll look at the one that's online? I mean, if it was changed, and I'm understanding, or it looks like it's not still online, the original policy, I would just like to see that.
Sure.
I'm kind of new to the game here. I'd just like to see it. So I'll send an email and somebody could take care of that.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
All right?
Thanks for your time.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
How you doing? I was with some people that just, I went to deal with the Nardellis. Yeah, they said yeah, they're all people. The Nardellis.
I think there was a vote.
So we need to go into executive session at some point.
We know we have to leave when you go to executive session.
Which requires.
I'll make a motion to enter executive session.
Thank you, Kenny. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're in executive session.
So I was, where it's staying. Yeah. Seeing it, Sandy's going to Assumption.